I have a desire. Actually, to be honest, I have multiple desires. Desires that I might not even be consciously aware of can actually be drivers of my behaviour. And look, often when I read emails from people who email me, or I listen to people, often I hear the desires, the longings, and the thirsts. Um, Desires for deeper relationships, a healing of pain, a releasing of grief, the answering of questions contained in mystery, a lifting of burdens, prosperity, whatever that might mean. And then images are presented to us on social media or and elsewhere like TV, movies that kind of lick the lips of our desires, and off the mind goes to fantasy of that desire fulfilled. And linger long enough with that desire, and it will soon become a goal to reach and a demand. And a demand shouts out, I want it this way and in my time. And we make a plan. A strategy is formed to meet that demand. And we work at it, don't we? Do you have desires unfulfilled? Have you noticed how easily a desire can flip over into being a demand we throw at God? Give me this, give me that, fix my life, make that person do this or that. One of the deepest desires we have, and it's part of God's nature, is the desire for intimacy, intimacy. And this desire can so often be presented as kind of a sexual desire. We want their beauty, we want their strength, and a desire grows within us for the other. The biblical character Samson has these desires, and Samson sees a woman he was not meant to associate with, a Philistine woman, but a desire in him grows. And it grows, and then a goal is formed, and a demand is made. And the story goes like this. Once Samson went down to Timnah, and at Timnah, he saw a Philistine woman. He shouldn't have gone down to Timnah, okay? That was not the right place to be. Then he came up, told his father and mother, I saw a Philistine woman at Timnah. Now get me for her as my wife. Can you feel the energy and entitlement for his desires to be met in his way and in his time? These desires become dominant in his life. Demandedness and a rugged determination to meet what he wants, to get what he wants, becomes an addiction. His physical strength becomes a threat. But eventually, his desires become his undoing. And then there's another story about Moses, and when the community he was leading through the desert were really thirsty. So here's the story. There was no water there for them in the community, so they ganged up on Moses and Aaron. They attacked Moses. We wished we'd died when the rest of our brothers died before God. Why did you haul this congregation of God out into the wilderness to die, people and cattle alike? And why did you take us out of Egypt in the first place, dragging us into this miserable country? No grain, no figs, no grapevines, no pomegranates, and now not even any water. I can imagine. Moses and Aaron walked from the assembled congregation to the tent of meeting and threw themselves face down on the ground, and they saw the glory of God. God spoke to Moses. Moses, take your staff, assemble the community, you and your brother Aaron. Speak to the rock that's right in front of them, and it will give water. You will bring water out of the rock for them. Congregation and cattle will both drink. Moses took the staff away from God's presence as commanded. He and Aaron rounded up the whole congregation in front of the rock. Moses spoke. Listen, rebels, do we have to bring water out of this rock for you? With that, Moses raised his arm and slammed his staff against the rock. Once, twice. Water poured out. Congregation and cattle drank. God said to Moses, Because you didn't trust me, didn't treat me with holy reverence in front of the people of Israel, you too aren't going to lead this company into the land that I'm giving you. These were the waters of Meribah, bickering, where the people of Israel bickered with God, and he revealed himself as holy. So what were the plans? Well, the desire was to get water. So the people's plan, they had a desire for water, they had a goal, they made it a demand, and they formed a plan to complain and dump on Moses and Aaron. God's plan, speak to the rock that's right in front of them, and it will give you water. Just speak it, speak to it. Come on, water, come out. That's all they had to do. Moses' plan. A lot longer than that. Listen, rebels, do we have to bring water out of this rock for you? With that, Moses raised his arm and slammed his staff against the rock. Once, twice, water poured out, congregation and cattle drank. Moses took control. He wasn't going to speak to a rock. So he slammed his staff into the rock. Twice. He smashed into God with violence. The power of Moses was seen, not the power of God. Moses did things his way. He took control. That rock, representing all of Moses' frustrations, needed a beating. He didn't trust God to meet his deepest desires. In the end, Moses and Aaron actually missed out on the heart's deepest desire of being fulfilled, of seeing that promised land. Look, I have some desires. You do too. Deep emotional desires of the heart for intimacy, connection, worth, value, acceptance. And these desires can become goals. A plan or a way to get that desires is presented to us. If you remember in the Garden of Eden, Satan, the accuser, he says, here is the apple, Adam and Eve, right? Here's the plan. We take it, but in the end, we find it leads to death. And there's a proverb that says, there is a way that seems right to a person, but in the end is the way to death. We strike the rock, we grab the woman, we eat the apple, and demand others make us happy. And this is done, and we come back with nothing. Or even worse, we get second-rate experiences that keep us kind of hooked in on the addiction of wanting more. We focus on second-place desires. And C.S. Lewis said, put first things first, and second things are thrown in. Put second things first, and you lose both first and second things. Look, there is something very, very special when you see someone who simply enjoys being in the presence of someone else. It's like, wow, just so good. And just thinking over this we've had some really rich conversations with people who have come through our house. That was delightful. And in the book, Connecting by Larry Crabb, he tells a story of delight about another author, Brennan Manning. He says this, several years earlier, Brennan had told me of his spiritual director's curious habit. Whenever he saw Brennan after an extended absence, he jumped up and down with delight. I remember smiling. I pictured an elderly man walking down a deserted beach toward an agreed-upon meeting point and spotting Brennan from a distance, hopping 3 or 4 times. I can imagine it. The image amused me. It also drew me. A year later, my wife Rachel and I tumbled out of a crowded elevator into a hotel lobby teeming with conference participants. Across the way, I caught a glimpse of Brennan's white hair and unmistakable smile. As I leaned in towards Rachel to tell her I'd just seen Brennan, he turned to us and saw us. Immediately, he jumped up and down. I was warmed to the bottom of my heart. Now, that's called delight. Brennan had delight in seeing Larry. Larry had delight in seeing Brennan. And like something of the nature of God's delight in them flowed in and through and around them. It was like you could see it, couldn't you? And something just said, I'm so happy you're here, in this place, at this time. There's a psalm that says, "Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." Psalm 37:4. And there's this experience of delight that is seen like when the prodigal son returns to the jumping up and down father. There is pure enjoyment of being with the other. In that place, the desires of the heart are met. So, what do we do with our desires? We have these desires, these emotional longings and thirsts, but what do we do with them? Well, firstly, don't try to kill them. Explore them. There is a reason for them being there. What are these desires telling you about you? Are these first place desires, knowing God more, deeper? Or second place desires, everything else? Okay? How have you tried to meet those emotional longings and thirsts apart from God? Name these desires as best you can and ask God to meet them in God's way. Experience the delight of God in you, much like a father seeing his wayward Samson or Moses coming home. Then wait and see how the desires are met, but possibly in a different way than expected. Perhaps you simply need someone to jump up and down when they see you coming. Have a good week. Share this with somebody else. Send this on. Send me an email. There's a link in the bottom of the show notes. Subscribe, of course. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.